What does success look like today with the Russians coming back to town?
Success is Minister Novak signing off after some more kicking and screaming to a 1.5 million barrel a day cut, at least for the second quarter of this year, if not through the rest of the year.
So what happened last night at the Hyatt? They all left here. They drifted out of here. They went up to the Hyatt where the Saudis were. Was that the creation of Plan B?
Yes, I think it was actually to get Plan A across the finish line. Panic is growing by the minute. The demand forecasts are getting worse and worse. So I think what the ministers did who met in Prince Abdulaziz's suite at the Park Hyatt last night was realize they have to resort to a little brinksmanship to get Russia across the line. What do I mean? I think they had to go to Novak and say, look, we think now we need 1.5 million barrels a day all year, not just in the second quarter. In a way, that's going to make it a little bit easier for Novak to convince Russian producers, et cetera, to perhaps go along with 1.5 in the second quarter. So I expect a trade, but we'll see. But the bigger point is panic is worsening. Demand forecasts are falling. This is a no-kidding emergency, and they've got to get Russia to yes.
Okay, if they wobble, if they prevaricate a Standard Chartered, say, what does that do to prices? You remember some colossal collapses.
No question. If they commit an epic policy failure by not cutting production, I think we can easily see a revisitation of old lows in and around $26 a barrel that we saw in February of 2016, if not lower. Remember, the only reason oil prices stopped falling at $26 a barrel in 2016 was because Russia agreed to conditional cuts. Back then, before then, they thought shale oil provided a net under oil prices. As we sit here today, everyone realizes there is no net under oil prices if OPEC doesn't act.
Brent in the 40s, does that stiffen the resolve for Russia?
It does. You know, the Russians are a little more comfortable with lower oil prices, but they don't want to see certainly below 42. That's when budgetary problems really get worse. Again, I think the Russians realize there is no net under oil. If they fail to act, we'll go well below their thresholds for pain. And so I think the Russians, are feeling the heat as well. That's why I think ultimately we'll have a deal.
You would also maintain that there's a global geopolitic at play here for Putin as well, and that this marriage that would last for eternity gives global credibility in a way. I don't know whether credibility is the right word to Putin.
Yeah, no question Russia has obtained enormous strategic advantage and financial and monetary advantages from this new relationship, this marriage, if you will, with Riyadh and Abu Dhabi. Russia loves it that we're all going to sit here waiting for Minister Novak's plane to emerge from the rainy weather and for him to step off and let us know if we're going to have a deal or not. This is enormous prestige for Russia. I don't think they're going to walk away from that very quickly, especially since they know something has to be done or oil prices are going to collapse. So Putin is going to want to keep in this game. I think he's enjoying it perhaps a little more than his Russian producers are.
Okay, so that's the downside. That's offering the market all the way down to $26 on collapse and failure. You say it's the dark before the dawn. Why, how, and where do I go to on the dawn?
Well, in the dawn, you want to just buy. I think pretty soon we're going to have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to buy oil and gas companies. Really, the consensus now is oil and gas are sort of like horses and buggies in 1902. It's a dying asset. It was suffering from terminal cancer before this flu virus came along, and one just wonder what they're going to do with their stranded assets. That's the consensus, mainly because of an expectation that electric vehicles and super-efficient cars are going to put oil out of business in this decade. I very much disagree with that as an analytical matter, not as whether the world should be that way. I'm just saying we're substituting wishful thinking for sound analysis. China EV sales are imploding. Policies are not nearly strong enough to effectuate the demand change that folks are expecting. Manus, in a few years, I think we're going to wake up. We'll put this coronavirus behind us. Demand growth is going to be 2 to 3 times stronger than the consensus expects right now, and we're going to be short on supply. The price is going to have to return and do the old job of balancing the market. Boom is going to follow bust. And, getting back to the swing producer, They have a choice today. They can decide to cut production or not. But when we get into the boom phase, they'll run out of supply, and the price will have to boom.